what I can't stand is Sundays at 5
Oh, maybe with,
Hi, good morning. Today is May 23rd, 2019. We're starting our work session. Our first item up for discussion is code revision solar clearing resolution. Jeff and Bob, I think, are coming up for this? What are we waiting for?
Pledge allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry, pledge allegiance, yeah, sorry, jeez. I feel like we never left from yesterday. Okay, Jim.
sure.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Bob.
So while we wait for the copies, I just have a couple of announcements. One is the beach stickers, as we're coming up on the holiday weekend. You can purchase your beach stickers at the Senior Center, 60 Shade Tree Lane, in Aquabot, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And starting on Memorial Day, you can purchase stickers, it's actually on Saturday, I think. On Memorial Day weekend, you can purchase stickers at the beaches on weekends from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and starting on June 22nd, they will be available for purchase 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This year, the beaches will be opened and staffed until 6 p.m. Permits cost $15 for residents, $5 for seniors, and are free for veterans. And you can also do a mail-in. If you would like to mail in your beach sticker application, you can download the form either from the riverheadrecreation.net under facilities and beaches, or you can obtain the form on the Town of Riverhead website, download it there, and mail it in. Another thing is, Jody, I don't know if you, for the
I was
Riverhead
gonna-
High School Wall of Honor, if you want to.
do that in my committee report.
Okay.
So, we're gonna be passing out applications for the Wall of Honor, which is a 5-foot by 8-foot American flag that's gonna be hung on the wall of the high school outside of the ROTC office for all service men and women that attended Riverhead schools. So, the application is that there are applications at the library, there are applications online at the Riverhead High School, and or the school district, and there are also applications in the town board coordinator's office, so if anybody's interested. And we'll be passing out flyers also at the parade on Monday, so that if you know somebody that may be interested, the wall is on the front, and then the application is on the back, and you can just bring those back to town hall or mail them in.
I can tell you that I got a text from my brother in Vegas last night, 'cause he lives there, and he goes, he must have saw it on Facebook. He goes,
Yeah.
You know, I'm very interested in filling an application.
Good.
Because I got 4 brothers that roll.
Yeah, fantastic.
So
I'll
obviously
give
it's
you-
out there in the social media land.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'll give you the applications.
Yeah, I asked Karen to give me 4 of them so I can get my
Yeah,
brothers up there.
good.
And there's also applications for, if anybody wants to pick them up, town clerk
Sorry.
will
Oh,
keep them
good.
in her office also.
Perfect. Jeff.
Thank you, Gregory.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what we like.
Oh, nice shirt, Barney.
Hey, purple's the color of royalty.
That's right.
It's always got a good comeback.
Very majestic.
Is that all,
Quick-witted,
that's all
Yes.
it takes?
Very
You know
witty,
your
Greg.
musical taste is wonderful, so.
We had to cut down a few trees too. Little head banging never hurt anybody.
Don't be wise.
Don't get me crazy
I thought we legislated this already.
Oh, we had a
We did it.
we had a public hearing on this a while ago, and then there were some questions. It went back to code revision, and is back for review again.
Yeah, so what we did is, I sort of summarized a lot of the issues dealing with regards to solar tree clearing. Just to give the board a little background, as you stated, there was a desire to limit the amount of tree clearing which is performed in order to facilitate the installation of commercial solar facilities, AKA solar farms. Pursuant to the town code, solar farms are permitted within the Industrial A, Industrial B, Light Industrial, and the PIP zoning districts by special permit of the town board. They are permitted in Industrial C, granted that the Industrial C land is located within the zip code boundary of the town of Calverton. Currently within the town code, there are no specific regulations that define the amount of tree clearing permitted or specially permitted uses within the industrial zoning districts. The only provisions which currently dictate site design and layout with regard to specific allowances are impervious surface coverage, floor area ratio, building lot coverage, and minimum required landscaped areas. So for some points to consider for the town board, in order to limit the conversion of large tracts of contiguous existing woodlands to passive solar energy production, town board should consider the following. So basically what I did is I went through the code and looked at all the defining characteristics as to what dictates the site layout and site design. So within the industrial A zoning district, maximum impervious coverage, now these are just general sites that govern all development within the industrial district, not specific to manufacturing, warehousing, or solar. These are just general guidelines. Maximum impervious coverage is 70%, and within the industrial A zoning district, there is a minimum required contiguous open space area equal to 15% of the lot area, and it states that preference is given to preservation of existing habitat rather than clearance and creation of new habitat. Within the industrial C zoning district, you've got 60% impervious coverage and a 20% contiguous open space requirement. Light industrial has a maximum impervious coverage of 60%, and it just says a minimum landscaped area of 20%. And now also pursuant to the town code, which dictates the design standards for solar farms, the maximum surface area of all ground-mounted panels and equipment shall not exceed 75% of the total parcel area. So what that means is if you have a parcel, you basically draw a box around all of the solar equipment, roads, infrastructure, all that stuff. That's considered your surface area for your project. So in
Solar
a
field.
For solar field.
Yes.
Inclusive of all the roads, all
Yep.
the equipment pads. So in a sense, these solar projects are already limited to a 75% footprint of the total parcel. So that would result in the retention of some existing vegetation.
But they could clear, if they had a completely wooded area, they could clear 75% of the trees on that parcel.
Correct. Well, yeah, so that's for pursuant to solar farms. Now, any other permitted use within the industrial district, if it was a warehouse, if it was a manufacturing, they would be holding to those requirements of the impervious coverage, minimum required landscaped areas.
Right, but that, as far as building an industrial building, that's job creation. So if they want to clear more, then I'm okay with that. But the reason why I put this legislation to code revision is because I don't want to see clear cutting of trees to accommodate solar panels. So I think that should remain the same.
Absolutely. And that is one of the options. So just I did a quick analysis. I'll jump around a little bit. The last 4 pages of the packet that I've just distributed, I just did a very rough analysis of our existing industrial areas. And what I did is I used our GIS to sort of scale out the amount of area that exists within our industrial areas that is currently wooded. So it's the first,
What page you at?
it's one, I guess it would be like page 6. They're just the images.
Okay.
The first one I'm going on is will be
Okay, I see.
industrial A.
Yeah.
So the industrial A zoning district currently has approximately 111 acres of existing wooded land. Industrial A comprises a total of approximately 745 acres of land in total. What this equates to is roughly 15% of the existing industrial A is currently wooded. Going on to the next page, industrial C contains approximately 242 acres of wooded land. Industrial C comprises a total of approximately 1,100 acres. What that equates to is approximately 22% of the total acreage in industrial C being currently wooded.
So if we were to not allow clearing, we would only be affecting 22% of the potential for the
Correct.
economic generation in that area, in that industrial area.
Moving on to the light industrial. Light industrial contains approximately 300 acres of wooded land, while the total land is approximately 490 acres. Now, the light industrial zone is by far the highest percentage of wooded land. Approximately 61% of the light industrial zone is currently wooded and forested. So just in terms of percentages of the total property, light industrial is by far the most open to, the most clearing.
Good, they could put it on the roofs.
And then within the PIP zoning district, is approximately 224 acres of wooded land. The total PIP acreage is 726, so again, that equates to about 31%.
So I guess the thing that was different from the public hearing that we went to was the ornamental trees. That's what the solar companies were having a problem with, because we did change the code a few years ago to create a field so that it would make it easier for the planning department to calculate the impervious surface coverage, and that's what we worked on in code revision before Catherine was here. But it was to create a solar field, per se. And within that solar field, there might be ornamental trees that have been, where the woods have been cleared, and then they planted trees in order to make a golf hole more difficult, or what have you. So my understanding is I just wanted to pull those areas out of previously cleared areas.
And if you take a look at, and Greg has data on that, that's in your packet, where the paintball used to be, they pulled out of that property because, somebody was in contract to buy it to put an industrial park. And it was a former tree farm, and that's what's there today. You have very large ornamental trees. You have a lot of blue spruces in there, for example. They're beautiful, but they're ornamental. Under the S-Power, they would have completely removed all those trees. The Bulla Edwards subdivision, industrial subdivision, would also completely remove all those trees. So either case, those trees are proposed to be removed.
Yeah, and I did kind of touch base on that, and I provided some images on page 4 and 5. The one application that we currently have before the town board and the planning board is the Calverton Solar Energy Center, AKA Nextera. So on page 4, you can see the areas around the clubhouse where there's some trees throughout the parking lot. I don't want to speak.
Nothing's contiguous.
Nothing,
Right.
and exactly, that's what it is there were no contiguous
Good
areas of
point.
vegetation, which I believe, and I can't speak for the town board, but I believe that was the intent, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't think we were looking to, if they were gonna cut down 3 or 4 trees on the golf course, I don't think that was really what we were looking to capture. And as Jefferson said, on page 5, there's an aerial image of the site that was known as Bulla Edwards. That site did get a preliminary approval from the planning board for a 10-lot major industrial
Pretty
subdivision.
sparsely vegetated anyway.
It
For a
was-
tree farm, it's pretty barren.
Exactly, it's the remnants of a tree farm, it hasn't been in operation. But again, I don't think it was the board's intention to, I think we were looking to capture more of the areas.
The
shown in
contiguous
the-
areas
the
of tree,
contiguous, the
of tree
140.
clearing, I think is what we're, of concern. So if somebody's planted trees, a single tree here and there, or a bunch of trees, I mean, some of these trees are the ornamental trees in the parking lot that was required by code.
Correct.
And let me just say that we've spent a long time talking about this. There's a lot to weigh, there's a lot to think about. But Greg, you did a lot of work in the last few
Thank you.
days.
Yeah,
And Greg, you mentioned the options, which I know you're gonna talk about. The only option that I don't see that we did talk about was the 3%.
well, that 3% was not a recommendation, that was looking at the total scope of one project. That wasn't really a recommendation as like what we could propose for the
Yeah,
code.
I
was
actually
looking-
I like the 3%.
Well, so-
But we can talk about when you get to the options.
The thing that really hit me when I did these calculations for the total industrial areas of the town, was the actual percentages of existing wooded vegetation. When I was starting to review this, I had questions regarding, why we were limiting solar. But when you look at the percentages, there's not that much existing woodland vegetation within these industrial areas. After reviewing it and after analyzing it and kind of breaking down the numbers, it may not be a bad idea to mimic what other towns are doing.
Greg, we did do the analysis, we talked about the 3%, that was Nextera's proposed
Right.
clearing. S-Power 2, what was their proposed clearing? Did we include that? I know they
So
did.
S-Power 2, S-Power 2 was the one that we were referencing
That's
for
in
the
your
5%.
packet.
That's in page, I believe, 6 of the packet. It's before those images.
Well, and the Nextera, we've talked about this before.
And
but
Nextera was not proposing
The Nextera
it.
project is not really a problem for us, it's just a few little trees here and
Right.
there, but actually what they're doing is good.
Yeah, and what you have here in your packet was the Riverhead Solar 2, which although it's being reviewed by the Article 10 process by the state, their project sponsor has identified the areas in their project which would be preserved.
What was the percentage, do you remember?
I believe this was the one we were looking at, so they're looking to preserve about 15% of the parcel on this one. They have about a 27.5 acre preserved area, 1 acre, 9.5, and 2 acres within their total project.
Yeah, it's not in my copy. Catherine, do you have it in your copy? I just make sure you have it. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. For some
So
reason.
I think there's plenty of opportunity for someone to develop solar if they wanted without cutting down trees.
I agree, and when you look at the percentages, yeah, I mean, when you're in industrial A,
Stay out of the PIP, all right?
yeah,
Light
Well, and that's,
industrial.
and as I said, the light
Light
industrial
industrial.
areas and the PIP definitely have the most to lose in terms of wooded acreage. I mean, light industrial, as I said, was about
They're
61.
not conducive to even being welcoming to that type of, I mean, if people, people look for land that's relatively benign to do it, I would think. So I don't even think they're appealing to solar.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, less investment if they can come in on a sod farm or a piece of property
Right.
that's already cleared.
Right.
Now, it is noted, though, that while there's currently nothing in the code, because solar farms are available, they're a specially permitted use, the town board is going to be able to review each individual application that comes before it. So in a sense, each application will have its own individual review, there will be a secret review conducted, and because it's discretionary at the discretion of the board, they can analyze each application sort of on a case-by-case basis, where we have, for example, Nextera, where they're not proposing any major clearing. There could be suppose there could be an application to come in and develop 100 acres of wooded land. The town board, in their special permit review, could find that, the balance is not in the town's favor. They do not support the clearing of 100 acres, and I'm just using a number. So, I mean, there is a level of control that the town board already has and discretion in approving these.
But I think for somebody looking to come in and do it, I think they should have a comfort level also of knowing that this is,
Right. But
when they're looking for sites, where to site something, if something is in the code that you can't clear, it does then guide them in a particular direction as they're moving forward to site it.
Well, we had so much discussion because we were talking, obviously, we were talking about whether we're looking at projects in solar or bringing in differently than we're looking at industrial projects. And, although there are some benefits to the solar projects, obviously, they just, as Jody mentioned, they're not the job creator that the
Exactly.
industrial
Right.
are. And so that's something that we need to take into account. So I thought about it, cause we've talked about it so much, we brought Tim into the conversation the other day. I still would not like to see, I'd like to, you're gonna go over the options, I would like to have an option that, doesn't allow much tree cutting.
All right, so to go through, there's, the way I've kind of reasoned it out, there's 5 options that the town board can consider with these restrictions. A complete restriction on clearing to facilitate the installation of solar farms, which is similar to legislation that both Brookhaven and Southold have adopted. Brookhaven says that solar facilities shall only be permitted on lands previously cleared as of January 1st, 2016. Southold has a date of January 1st, 2018. So
They limit it to trees that are 6 inches or less, whereas Brookhaven's for 3 inches.
Correct.
So they're pretty restrictive.
Option 2 would be to limit the clearing to a percentage of the total project size.
Can I just, for the no tree clearing, how do they address ornamental, small groupings of ornamental trees?
They don't.
There's nothing.
They don't? Okay.
They have-
That's my one thing, because I would like to, if you have just one tree standing in the middle of nowhere, I
Unless
don't,
it's a unique historic tree.
yeah, and that can be addressed at the
Right.
site plan, but I think we should give some availability for, a small grouping of trees that are not contiguous with anything else on the property.
No, I agree, and as I said, Brookhaven and both Southold, there's no definition as to ornamentals. They don't even really talk about contiguous vegetation, which I believe is important. And that's really what we need to wrestle with and figure out how to define in the code.
Okay.
Could also limit clearing to a percentage of the total project size. For example, if the town board wished to limit the amount of clearing to 5%, on a 10-acre parcel, you could clear a half an acre. A 5% clearing limit on a 200-acre parcel would allow them to clear 10 acres. So, I mean, that keeps it sort of relative to the size of the project.
But we know most of the projects we have coming in are closer to the couple, at least 100 or better
Oh, yeah.
acres.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think that, a 10-acre clearing is a pretty big area.
I mean, 10 acres on a 200 acre, again, it's all relative. So, I mean, a 200 acre parcel, if you're talking about clearing 10 acres, yeah, I mean,
And take a look at, S-Power, show, just a minute about S-Power 2.
Yeah, the S-Power 2, so I mean, they're preserving 15%. Most of this land is already cleared either through sod farm, I mean, they are proposing it on the Bola Edwards, the
That's the ornamental
previous
tree
tree
farm.
farm. you mean, so these applications are on mostly disturbed land already.
Right, right.
I think the industry recognizes the pushback that they would get if they
Sure.
try to clear certain properties.
Money.
I mean, like I said, I'll be honest, the opinion that I kind of garnered through the analysis, limiting clearing entirely may not be a bad idea because the percentages of land within the industrial areas are dwindling. It would be prudent to preserve those, but again, just define certain criteria for ornamentals and non-contiguous areas, because I think the spirit was to try to capture, 37-acre portions of
Right.
wooded land, or 143 or 94, not worrying about,
10
real-
feet.
Exactly.
I think that's a fair assessment, the way it's
Right.
being put together.
Yeah.
I like that, I like
You
that
can get a
idea
haircut
too.
without shaving your head.
Yeah.
Why don't you try it?
I can't, it hurts.
So, I mean, I think going forward, if it's the board's desire, Jeff and I can work on drafting a code which would limit clearing, but define either ornamentals or non-contiguous vegetation in a way that the board's satisfactory with it. And as you said, it would give, applicants sort of a direction as to where to go.
I like that because
does.
we're restrictive in the clearing, which I wanted, and yet I feel like we're still being reasonable by talking about the ornamental.
And I mean, when you look at the numbers, I mean, the industrial A, again, 15% of the land is currently wooded, meaning 85% of the industrial A land is already cleared. So I mean, you've got 85% of the property that would be a viable project site for these guys to go in without clearing large tracts of vegetation. So, I think it would be a good legislation, good code to bring forward if we could find a way to marry the limit of clearing and at the same time define.
Just as a side note, Jeff and I have had discussions because there are other solar places where they plant wildflowers all over.
And I think that can be part of the discussion, like with Nextera, is that they come up with the wildlife habitat plan. I did a tour of the solar facility over in the Brookhaven National Lab. They have a biology section of their team that is analyzing the impacts on wildlife and the habitat with solar farms. It's a national issue, and one of the things that they found is that where you have the solar farms and you're protecting the grasslands, you're actually increasing insect population, bee population, butterfly population. I think if you throw some wildflower mix in in some of these areas, it would help out with kind of balancing it out. You always have migrating animals such as deer population, and other mammals that you also have to address. So those are sort of things that we're going to be addressing with Nextera and S-Power too.
Well, we've been told that solar farms, actually, if they go on fertile land, after 20 years, the land is no longer fertile. That's what we were told at our meeting, correct?
No, I think
That-
that
that
it,
was-
go ahead.
That was a comment that came during, I believe it was the first S-Power review. It was a comment from New York State Ag and Markets. We have not seen any sort of substantive science behind that, because there are parcels, for example, there's a parcel on the northeast corner of Middle Country Road and Wading River Manor Road. It was previously farmed, historically farmed. Farm operations ceased on that parcel. It sort of returned to wooded area. Approximately 15 to 20 years. It was purchased by the Finks, and they cleared it, and now we're farming it again. So you have a parcel here that is sort of going against what Ag and Markets is saying, is that these lands are not being,
And
not
the
able
other
to be
point
spoke
to
to the
that,
Long
if
Island.
you put a warehouse or a parking lot, guess what they're doing with that soil?
Correct.
They're removing it from the property.
Right.
So even if they
Yep.
remove those structures, that farming soil is gone.
Well, my point is, if then you were to require wildflowers to be planted, I think that would help the soil, give it nutrients and help it
And they're
not to be
low-lying
That's what we
sterile.
talked about.
Yep.
I don't,
And I did
I
check
have a hard
with,
time wrapping my mind around that whole concept that doing nothing on the land makes it go
Yeah,
bad. That make, if
was
anything, I think it would
surprised when I heard
regenerate
that
itself
too.
because the fact that there isn't
It's
abusive.
contrary to what farming was when they came here, they cleared forests.
Right.
well, I
And
checked with the
that's
Long
what
Island Bureau.
farmers used to do.
I checked with the Long Island Farm Bureau, and they said that some of that information was based on the way the footings used to be made for the previous solar farms, because there was a lot of concrete in the settings and the footings and everything else. So that could have had an interfere, but as time has gone on, the footings are different, and they don't feel that that will
They
be.
just apologize
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
There's no foundation of footing. And I'll ask if the farmer here, when a farmer, at the beginning of spring, doesn't have enough nutrients in the soil, what does he bring onto the site? Compost, and he turns it into.
Sometimes, yep.
Cow manure.
And that was part of what with Nextera, we had asked them about, you know, testing the soil beforehand and returning it at the end of the 20 years back to where it was, so.
Well, I'd be really curious to see the studies on that. I think we should look at the studies, the current, most current studies on that. And, I mean, personally, I just think we can't go wrong with putting the wildflowers or some kind
Yeah, I
of
don't think it
growth on
hurts.
there, which would be attractive for us to look at and would be good for the soil.
Absolutely.
And for the bee population.
Right.
Absolutely, because
Now,
that's a
could we
big issue.
put that in, and
It's
we couldn't put that in this?
Perfect habitat because, wildflower
Resolution.
seed
I
mix
think they're
requires
separate. I
annual
think that would
mowing.
be more for the
Well,
solar
the solar farms, as part of their annual maintenance, mows it because they don't want the grass growing too tall,
Mhm.
so it's a perfect wildlife habitat for it,
Right.
so.
Good.
More natural, yep.
Mhm.
All right, so if I'm reading the board, Jeff and I will work on a code which will limit clearing, but it will define, you know, individual trees, and it will sort of work to define contiguous areas and what we
Yeah, the
want to
contiguous is
preserve.
I think it's a good word.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think Greg did an outstanding job with this
Yes, very
analysis.
good.
Absolutely. Good
I
job
know,
and nice
really
shirt.
good.
And
Yeah, you
I
owe
think
him
we've
an
all
apology.
seen that, removing trees is not a clear-cut issue.
Well, I feel like we were able to make the
job.
best.
Oh, no, that's John Flood.
Oh, that's,
Oh,
okay. That's John.
Jefferson.
Oh,
It's our
that's
new
John.
environment.
I haven't met him
Our new
before.
environmental
Oh, my
planner.
goodness.
John
Okay.
Flood, please introduce you to the
Hi, John.
supervisor.
Nice to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you.
Lord
I've met
Jensen.
you, John. Good to
We've
see you
met.
again.
I've met you.
I haven't met you, I thought you were Rivet local, I didn't know what you
And
were.
Bob Cousin,
I've
Kevin,
met
our town
John.
attorney.
John,
I-
you from ESF?
Yep.
Yeah.
You graduated from?
ESF, yeah.
Oh, my son goes there.
And back to what a
There you
great,
go.
back to what a great job Greg did, you know, because you did so much research and you weighed all the different things, it just made it so much easier for us
Yep.
to make a decision on this. Thank you very much.
I
Very
think
nice
the
job.
reason why we
Thank you.
were so long in kind of getting back, it was a difficult issue to get our heads wrapped around. We all had the same goal in mind, it's just how do you implement it?
We weighed everything and we really wanted to get it right.
Yep.
And it was
Alright.
worth it.
Thank you guys
Good
very
job,
much.
Greg,
Thank you.
As always.
Thank you.
Well, don't say that, he'll wanna get another shirt.
All right, next we will move on to Town Board Committee Liaison Updates. Anybody got?
I'm gonna talk a minute about the rec advisory, which is a great committee. Yesterday, we went on a rec advisory field trip. We rode around to some of the different parks and looked at what was needed and, you know, really surveyed things. Actually, residents came over and talked to us about what was needed at the different parks. So I'm just gonna mention, you know, we're moving forward, hoping we can get some of this done. For now, we have these projects on the radar. We are looking at Bayberry Park and the tennis court there, which needs work. Also, we have that extra playground, which I've talked about, I know you guys are aware of, that's been in storage for many years. We looked at areas at Bayberry Park to put that playground because their playground equipment, needed updating, it was pretty old.
Yeah.
They have
Actually-
some fun stuff
It
there,
was
though.
fun back in our
it is
day,
fun,
but things
yeah,
have changed.
Right, actually George Gabrielson and I tried out a lot of the equipment there.
Oh, that's interesting.
We were all there, the whole team was there. The Reeves Park bathroom, the Stotsky Bowl handball court we're looking at, and the Edwards Avenue, boat ramp. Those are the projects that are on our radar at this time.
All right, Anybody,
That's it.
anybody else for updates?
Bidma, real quick, we are, gearing up for Alive on 25, July 3rd being the first one.
July 3rd, right?
July 3rd,
With
it's
fireworks.
with fireworks, so that's gonna be the big opening day. We just hired an executive director, and so
Salary.
that's gonna be a big help. And we're looking for space for her, so I wanna talk to the supervisor about maybe some space here in Town Hall that may become available.
Yeah, my
at
office
some
will be
point in
available
time.
pretty soon.
Stop. I can't believe you took your pictures down already.
Park and Advisory District, we have a meeting today at 4 o'clock, and we are pretty much finalized with the parking plan that we have for the north parking lot on, off of Roanoke and behind, Maximus Gym, so.
Did you, there was, okay, I know there was an upgrade done on Marty's, original Marty one, there was another one done, right?
Well-
We don't have a final drawing for that. It needs to go to our
Yeah.
planning board.
I know
I
they
think
would- I know they
Marty
worked it out
has
a little
agreed
bit.
to do a plan, but I
Mhm.
don't know that we have the finalized plan from him yet.
Yeah, I think
But as
that-
far as the parking plan that we hired to have done, we've
That's the study.
instituted the
The
study. We've instituted the color coding for time-limited parking in various parking locations. So we pretty much have finalized that, and that's gonna come for board review, and then obviously if we wanna tweak it, we can tweak it.
No numbering the stalls and getting parking unity system and all that?
No, it'd be by colors. It would be color orientated. So if the lines
Paid
on it are
parking.
blue, blue means, say, a 3-hour parking time limit. If you're parking in blue, you have a 3-hour time limit. And, as the chief mentioned, he's in talks with getting the handheld ticket writers.
Yeah, right.
Because you can't mark the cars anymore, the tires anymore with chalk. So that will help with the enforcement issues that we've had in the past for time-limited parking areas, so. It's all starting to come together, and
Has there ever been I know we talked about it last year with the pile-outs and all that, but, with actually creating paid parking,
that's always a conversation we have.
like in Port Jeff, or even most of Patchogue, there's a couple of free parking, but most of
Right.
Patchogue, you gotta feed the meter.
Absolutely. Right now, in this study, that is not part of it, but this study is also being done with the option to change anything that we need to customize or tailorize right for our specific area. And the Main Street parking, I think, may become an issue with paying to park there at some point in time again.
Or even the parking fields. and you-
Yeah, well, parking fields also can be done. Your closer ones, your premium spaces, if you will,
Mhm.
may become that. But that's something we have to approach as time goes on.
I
Right
know
now,
we
we're
were
gonna
just-
start
I know
out with this.
Endgame was to try to find a money stream to
Right.
work on a garage
Mhm.
structure.
Or a garage, or possibly purchase more property to expand asphalt paving, so.
And I think that plays into the pilot, payment in
Yes.
lieu of parking when
Yeah.
when you're
Mhm.
developing. So I think that's encompassed in the study and addressed in the study, so that will then
Absolutely.
be incorporated into, some of the zoning requirements that happen.
Certainly, I'd like to see a parking garage at some point, a few
Oh, I
blocks,
think, yeah,
few blocks over going north maybe. So many ways you can do a parking garage now where it's not
Oh, yeah, I
so
got it in my mind's eye already.
terrible
I
to
s-
look
I
at.
see it already. Well,
I-
no, some of them are very well
Yeah.
done.
Well, I
Very
think,
well
I think what the study revealed is that we're not optimizing the parking that we have now.
Right.
So I
Well,
think
that's
the
true.
first step is to optimize the parking that we have now, and that's what Tim was referring to, with the timed parking. So we need to optimize that, and a big part of it is the enforcement.
Absolutely.
So to make sure
Absolutely.
that when we're putting in time limits, that those time limits are observed, and then we can go from there to see if there is a lack of spaces, and then address those issues from
I
there.
like
Well-
the fact that you park in a spot that says you're 3-hour parking, and all of a sudden you get engrossed, and you're like, wow, I can't, my 3 hours is up, I gotta move my car. I'd rather just go on my phone and pay another $5
No,
instead.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's,
Right.
that technology is certainly out there, and it's something that
Yeah.
we've explored, and it may eventually come this way,
Yeah.
so.
But that's why there'll be options for things. So
Right.
if you know that you're coming downtown and you'll be there more than 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or for an unlimited time, there will be all of those options to park. So, and that's where the walkability comes, and we can all
True.
use that little exercise if we're gonna be there a little longer.
Oh,
So
no,
you
no.
park in the appropriate, places.
Well, getting to the restaurant's easy,
Yeah.
getting back to your car might not be.
Well, I
Just-
know they were saying that we have enough parking for now, which didn't actually surprise me. But I think, we have to be proactive, because
Mhm.
at some point,
Right.
with all the residential
The
coming
reality
in,
is, you're not
right.
gonna park in front of Woolworths or Sears like years ago you did, and go into the store, get what you need, and come out.
Yeah, right.
The reality is, New York City, you park 5 blocks away from your point of interest, and you're happy with that.
Most Main
You know,
Street
here,
is
if you've
pretty
gotta
fluid,
walk
though. I
300 or 400 feet,
I-
it's like, wow, there's no parking.
I park on Main Street a lot, only, I'm always going to the flower shop and, Goldberg's, I'm always in, I always find a
Mhm.
spot on Main Street for the most part.
Yeah.
But then we don't really have most people there to eat, I guess.
Well, as we increase the safety downtown too.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely.
We've got, all this.
Absolutely, and that's with the addition of the 608
Right.
sector.
Yeah.
This all comes together, it's all
It's coming
little
together.
pieces that are coming
Agreed.
together
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
making things
Okay.
much
Should
better.
grow.
Just a quick note on the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, we are still conducting the survey, So the surveys have been placed around at various locations, from the senior center to the hospital to the library. So anybody 55 and over, we would appreciate it if you would fill one out and return it, and it's only gonna help our seniors programs later on down the road.
I did, and I put a stack at the back of my church for people.
Good, thank you, appreciate that. That's it for me.
All right.
And the only thing with me is, well, a lot anyway, but mostly farmland and open land, we're all engrossed, and it's gonna take us probably the better part of the next few months to go over our list. We have a list of properties, and we're going over and find out, prioritizing all the properties, whether it's farmland preservation or for open space preservation.
Okay, for potential for
For
TDRs
purchases.
and
Well, we want,
purchase.
you're right, we wanna put a priority list together,
Nice.
because there's some parcels that really aren't conducive to either. And we're working with landmarks on that, so, and everybody, believe me, it's tedious, but it needs to be done.
Okay, very good.
I'm just gonna mention again that downtown will be presenting some recommendations on at this meeting on the 30th. And the environmental committee, who's moving along nicely, now has chairs. Cara Fernandez, who lives in Riverhead but helps run the Quag Wildlife Refuge, and George Bartnick, who's involved with a lot of environmental groups and was a former councilman.
All right, very good. I just want to report off, the business advisory, met, and just one of the urgent matters, which I know you guys all love talking about, is 255s. But we had passed a resolution that we were going to, go back to the old rules as far as submission until, I think, June 18th was the day. After that, we would, then the new regulations would be in effect, with the caveat that up until that 45-day period, that any penalty fees would be waived, but the submission would not be accepted if it was past that 45-day mark, and that is in place till December 18th, when we originally adopted, at which time everything will take effect, including late fees. So I am just presenting to the board, if there is a desire for the board to not have that 45-day in place and willing to accept applications after the 45-day time limit, then we need to change what we have in place now, because otherwise when the applications come in, the town clerk's office and for the town attorney's office will be following the code that is in place. There is no opportunity to come to the board to have that waived under the new rules. So I ask you to think about that, or if you have any thoughts on that now, what you would like to do.
I'm thinking we should probably keep it for ease of enforcement and ease of usage of the program itself. If we've gone back to the old ways.
You wanna come up, yeah, Diane Zimmer.
We should probably just keep it that way till December 18th.
Well, we haven't come, we used the new application, everybody fills out the
Right.
new application, we have the new fees. The only difference is that, 40 day, they only have to, it's the 40 days, and that there's still the 45 days, but they can petition the board to have that waived with 3 signatures.
Currently,
That's the
it's the
difference.
40 days and petition the board to waive the late.
Right.
Yeah.
The time for acceptance,
Right,
acceptance of the application.
There's no fee, no late fee at this point. And I think that the resolution, the fee schedule resolution had stated that December 18th was the late fees would start being collected after December 18th,
Correct.
2019.
Right.
So we're sort of, kind of caught in the middle there a
In
little
limbo,
bit.
Right, so
Yeah.
we need to give direction,
What is, Diane, what do you feel? I mean, you're the one really.
Yeah,
that-
she's
If, you know what, if we're gonna collect late fees, then that's okay, but just tell me when, because,
well, the
And don't
resolution
change our
doesn't,
mind.
there's no late fees connected, starting till December.
Right.
correct.
Right,
That's not what the code says.
right,
That's what the resolution says. So there is a difference.
okay.
But as far as the late fees go, when we do start, and when we are able to deny based on the late filing, I just wanna be able to tell people what the code says and stick to it.
Well, as of June 18th, you will deny, if somebody
If
hands it
they're
in,
that late.
if it's less than 45 days, the application will be denied. And that's what is in the code. So if the board wishes to change that, then we need to do that before the 18th, because anything after that will be denied.
Right,
So,
and that's what we will do. I know it'll upset people,
Yeah, I
but,
can't, you know,
but you tell me now,
Yes.
what
I-
the intention is.
well, it's kind of hard to specify when or if that would ever happen, but I hate things cut, nothing's ever cut and dry that way, nothing has ever done that way. There's gotta be some ability, I don't know how you even word it.
well, that's what we need to know.
Right,
Because
Exactly.
right now what happens is, well,
right.
we're denying and
Right,
then
we give
it's
them a
chaos.
letter, or we
Right.
tell them at the counter,
Right.
no, this is it, this is cut and dry, this is the way the code is stated, this is what the town board adopted, we're following the code, denying. And, obviously, they're upset, they don't want that, and we're not
Well,
happy to do it,
I
but,
picture like a natural, well, I'm gonna do some ridiculous thing, but let's say there's a national catastrophe somewhere, or something, and they wanna have a celebration, or they wanna have something.
Well, that would be an assembly and a parade, and that would
30
go.
days, well, no, but with vendors and stuff, I mean, it could turn into a chapter 90 or 255, but it's less than 45 days.
so you're saying within certain circumstances, we should have like a waiver
Exigent
or
circumstances,
a-
something, I mean, there's gotta be some.
But who's allowed to, because what happens is every application that comes in, and they haven't met that, they're less than the 45 days, every one of those, do we want them to, every one of those to come before the board for acceptance? That's what, that's our options. Because
No,
the
you don't
clerk
want
is not
everyone to
gonna
come
be the
before
one
the
to
board,
say
but
yes for you, no
Most
for
people are
you.
just gonna say, all right, well, I don't have enough time, we can't do it this year, we'll do it next year.
But then you have the next one that comes in, and they go to the other board members and say, I would like you to sign off. I mean, with Chicken Kids is a perfect example, right? So they didn't meet the criteria, and everybody it really, town hall basically shut down
I know, but we
to
did
be
the
able
right
to
thing
do
for
that,
chicken
and that,
kids because of what they are
But-
and what they do. So the needs of the many outweigh the needs of a
but
few.
that has to then be in the code for Diane to be able to do that, otherwise the town
Yeah,
clerk
that's what I
cannot
mean.
do
It's like,
that.
I hate things cut and dry, no
because we're
laws,
saying
including
no.
traffic laws are cut and dry.
But if you have a process by which they can appeal, that's up to you, of course, but that almost sounds like what you're saying.
What a headache this turned
I
Well,
know,
I mean,
who would've thought?
but it's a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the nature of these 255s is that most people get them in on time and there's no problems. But you have a few people that don't get them in on time and then, want to have it still occur, even though they're not coming in under what the guidelines are, the rules are for the town. And are we willing to make exceptions for everyone that comes in under time?
Right, and you
And
can't
you
give to
can't-
one and not to another.
Correct.
Sounds like
But-
too much gray area.
Yeah, and you're right, and part of it is that we need so much time because there's so much that has to go into it with fire marshal and police, and maybe the police presence has to be there to control traffic, and, maybe there's a tent permit involved, maybe there's fireworks, maybe
Or
there's
3 other
food
events happening
vendors,
on that day?
multiple events,
Well,
you're right,
That's the whole idea of getting it in time.
right, and that's why we need
I
that,
mean, that's the
that
whole idea
timeframe.
is for scheduling more than anything.
Right.
So are we gonna make an exception for
I
under the
gotta think
45?
about how to word it, because I don't wanna.
I'd like
I mean,
to,
if
but
that's-
we have to do it and,
Whatever we're gonna do, we gotta get the word out.
Right,
Yeah.
right. If there's a process
Right
that
away.
you would wish to be placed into the code that
I
we
mean,
could follow.
45 days is not that long a time anyway.
Right, with what goes into it from the town's perspective.
I've run many
because-
events, and
right.
you start long,
Oh,
4 or 5
Right,
days
yes,
out.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
Agreed.
So, but by doing that, we're putting the onus on the event planner, not on the town. So the question is, do we want to take the onus on the town or should the onus be on the event people to get it in on time? That's the
it should
bottom line.
definitely be on the event.
Obviously, it should be
Well,
on
yeah, that was a.
should be on them.
absolute question. Of
I mean,
course-
do
of
you
course
wa-
you're gonna event plan.
I mean, do you
I just hate, me personally, and I'm only one person, so, and I'm half a person at that. So,
But-
I hate things cut and dry.
So do you
I
want to
hated
allow appeal process with five board members signing off? You could do that?
Well, let me think how we're gonna.
It's an
I would word
option.
it a certain way where it wouldn't be just a general thing.
But it has to.
I don't want it available to everybody that comes in late, it has to be
But-
maybe
But
specific.
you can't say yes
Yeah,
to
that-
one and no to
right.
another.
Then
We're-
you
Well,
can have
but if you can
some
define
business
what
owners sign
events
off.
would
Under
have making
certain-
exceptions,
Right,
can
it's
define
under
those type
certain
of events.
criteria.
Right.
Okay.
You certainly can.
But we need, in my office, we need firm directive on
Right.
how to proceed, because if we're
Understood.
wishy-washy and we
Right.
can't, you know, if we're
Exactly.
telling them no, we
Blame the
can.
other side of the building.
What's that?
Just blame the other side.
Right.
No, you know
Go
what,
to those
we-
town council
We need to
people.
be backing these guys up.
Yeah,
You can't
I
leave
mean,
them
but like, if
hanging.
we know, well, okay, you're denied, however, there's an appeal process, you can talk to the town board, if 5 town board members are okay, or
Well,
whatever.
Or you could say, look, you don't even meet the criteria for appeal because you're
Right.
not X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Whether it's a national, whatever, I'll think of
Well, the
something.
more.
I'm thinking of a 9/11, all of a sudden they wanna have 30 days later, they wanna have a
I think it needs to be
celebration or
clear
a-
cut, if we
fundraising.
can,
Right.
because that sounds too difficult.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's
how many
already
times is,
become-
you know?
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Right,
more
hopefully never.
involved. But yeah, just so that we know, we have, the people who are approaching us, they're calling us, we need to know what to tell people, the applicants when they come in or when they call. They've got a lot of questions now, because the code has changed, they have many questions. So we really need to guide them in the right way. We need the right information. If there is an appeal process, that's fine, if that's what everybody wants,
Right, if
but
there's
we
an appeal
need to
process-
let them know.
Right, it has to be quick and swift.
Mhm.
And I would say instead of 5 people, maybe 4 out of 5 are required. 'Cause if somebody's away on vacation, it may be hard to
It may be,
get
yes.
5.
Or should they have to come to a work session?
There's an option too.
You know what, that's
up to-
probably even
yeah.
better.
Yeah.
That's
Because the
probably
work
even better.
sessions are,
Explain it,
right,
right, why it is and what they
Yeah.
did, and then we can
Right.
make a decision.
Will act as an appeal board.
Right.
And
Right.
that also puts the onus on them, more of the onus on
right.
them.
And you know, you have your work sessions every week,
Yep.
so, with rare exception. So you know that they.
Shouldn't have one today.
We shouldn't? Oh, okay.
Right after a town board meeting, they
Too
don't
late.
have one.
It's
We'll
before the
see.
holiday weekend.
We'll see.
All right, so if everybody could kind of give it a little thought, as you're coming up with the ideas, maybe check with Diane and Laura Calamita.
Yeah, and Carol in my office
Carol.
does a lot with that too, so she's usually the one I go to.
you guys.
Okay.
Right, right,
Whatever
right.
happened to our little town?
I'm sure they'd be happy to
We'll
do
meet
that.
again.
Okay.
Little bitty town.
Craig, did you want to? He's here for example. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Oh.
He has a lot to say
Paying a whole
about
hour to sit here and watch us? Oh, my God.
All right, so, can I have a first and second to go into executive session for personnel matters regarding a raise for an employee, matters surrounding the hiring of an employee, matters regarding a raise for an employee, contractual negotiations in CSEA, contract regarding Riverhead Highway property, and legal advice regarding a contract and litigation, current litigation, Town of Riverhead, versus the County of Suffolk.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.